morning air in Hiroshima carries a peculiar stillness, the kind that lingers after a long, slow breath. I remember it now, how the scent of damp earth and distant sea salt filled the car, how the sun spilled through the trees like water over stone. I was driving to work, the same route every day, the same rhythm of the engine, the same hush of tires on asphalt. But that day, something shifted like the wind holding its breath before a storm. I was 24 then, a woman with a name too soft for the world I'd been thrust into, teaching English to 3-year-olds in a city that still whispered of war. My name is Lena Matsuoka, though I doubt it means much to anyone now. I had a small red Mazda Spiano, the kind of car that looked like a toy, but carried the weight of a month's paycheck. I had failed the local driving test 9 times before passing, and I still drove like I was being watched, like every lane had eyes. That morning, I was late. Not by much, just enough to make my pulse thrum a little faster, to make me grip the steering wheel a little tighter. I was in the fast lane, something I rarely did, because I liked to see the world in its slow, unbroken way. But I didn't have time for that. I had a schedule, a routine, a boss who would not understand my hesitation. I accelerated, the car humming beneath me, and I slipped into the space ahead of another car. It wasn't a big maneuver, just enough to pass. I didn't think anything of it. What I didn't see was the man in the car beside me. Not yet. But he saw me, and something about it, my presence, my movement, set him off like a storm in a bottle. I didn't know it then, but he followed me for 20 minutes. He didn't honk, didn't flash his lights. He just stayed there, a shadow at my back, a silent weight in the air. I didn't notice. I was too busy trying not to be late, too focused on the rhythm of the road. The way the trees blurred past like memories I couldn't quite recall. When I arrived at the school, the usual parking spot was taken. I parked in what was once a gas station, now a lot with cracked pavement and a single row of cars. I sat there, gathering my things, my keys, my thoughts. And then I saw it, his car, pulling in behind me. My heart did a strange thing, then slowed, then quickened, like it was trying to remember how to beat. I was angry, yes, but also something else. A kind of dread, like I was standing at the edge of a cliff and the wind had just shifted. I rolled down my window, thinking he might be a parent, one of the many mothers and fathers who arrived early to help with the morning routine. I smiled, the way I always did, the way I thought made me seem friendly, professional, safe. He wasn't a parent. He was a stranger, a man with eyes that burned like coals and a voice that cracked the air like thunder. I didn't understand most of what he said, but I understood the words police, liar, Japanese. He was angry. He was shouting, and the other parents were staring, the children's eyes wide and curious. I didn't know how to react. I didn't know if I should be afraid. He asked me to follow him. I did, not because I was brave, but because I wanted to get the children away from him, because I thought it would be easier to run if I was across the street. I thought I was in control. I was wrong. At Ian, the supermarket, I sat in my car with the engine running, waiting. He parked 2 rows ahead, his face a storm of rage. The police came. I didn't know what they said, but I gave my side, and they nodded, wrote something down, and then left me alone. No ticket, no charges, no explanation. I drove home that night with my hands white on the wheel, my breath shallow and quick. Every car behind me became a shadow, a memory, a threat. I began to count the minutes. 10, 15, 20. I would pull over, press my forehead to the steering wheel, and try to remember how to breathe. That man never called me. He never came back. But he left something behind, a wound that never quite healed. I learned to drive with more care, to look over my shoulder more often, to move through the world with a quiet tension in my chest. I learned to fear the silence between cars, the weight of a glance, the pull of a stranger's shadow. I still live in Hiroshima. I still teach. And sometimes, when the air is still and the sky is the color of a bruise, I remember that day. I remember the way the world felt like it was holding its breath, the way I felt like I was being watched, like I had crossed a line I didn't know was there. I never saw him again. But sometimes, when I'm alone in my car, I wonder if he remembers me. If he thinks of that day, of the way I looked, the way I moved. I wonder if he sees me in the crowd, or if I'm just a story he told himself to make sense of the storm. You won't find me in the news. You won't find my name in any file. I'm just a woman with a red car, a woman who learned the hard way that some encounters leave more than just memories. Some leave a kind of ache that never quite fades. And if you ever drive down a quiet road and feel the weight of a car behind you, if you feel the air change, the world pause, don't look back. Just drive. And remember this, some shadows are not meant to be chased.